Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes. Welcome to another episode of Food, Freedom, and Fertility. We are your hosts, Sophia Pavia and Caitlin Johnson, both registered dietitian nutritionists specializing in women's fertility. I myself specializing in progesterone production so that you can get pregnant, stay pregnant, and bring home the healthy baby. And Miss Caitlin is the PCOS extraordinaire, helping you ovulate regularly so that you can get pregnant and stay pregnant with PCOS.
Yay.
And we are here today with a trend episode. We've been seeing so much of this red flag, green flag, maybe even beige flag. I'm not really sure how we can work that
It's
in
the
here.
in-between, orange.
Yeah, but
orange
we're going to
flag.
talk about fertility red flags, fertility green flags. And really what this is going to come down to is like our trendy way of saying how you can know if something's going on from your own home before calling in a professional. So what are some things that are maybe variations of normal that you are maybe thinking, is this a red flag that something's up with me? But it could just be your version of normal, or things that maybe you've been told are normal and are actually a red flag that you may need more support, more help, that your metabolism, your overall health, or your fertility or hormones are struggling. So that's what today's episode is, red flag, green flag.
Yeah, because your doctor, it will typically say like at your annual visit, oh, you say to them, we're going to start trying to get pregnant soon. Maybe you're going off of your oral contraceptive. And they're like, okay, go try for a year and come back when you like, if there's an issue, or come back if you're not pregnant. And that window shortens. It's 6 months after 35. And honestly, after 40, they're like, don't try, just come and let's do testing. Sophia and I all the time work with clients that have red flags that should have been flagged for more testing
For
or
sure.
earlier intervention. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean medicine or procedures, but something's going on that could be optimized to not only increase your chance of pregnancy, but we want a healthy baby growing inside of you. We want a healthy mom and dad to welcome that baby into the world. And we
Amen.
may need to be doing things. And frankly, there's just not enough talk about this. I was just chatting with somebody that was like, I'm going through perimenopause and like, I don't even know what's right to expect. Are the hot flashes normal, or are the hot flashes something I need to like really work on because it's a sign something's going wrong? And similarly, all the way through women's health, from puberty, all the P's, puberty, trying to get pregnant, postpartum, perimenopause.
Puberty, pregnancy, progesterone, PCOS,
Yeah, they're all
penis.
taboo. Oh boy.
This is why we don't work in men's health, y'all. In case you were
Anyway, it's
okay.
you need your besties to tell you like, hey, sister, that cervical mucus that you were like, what is all this goo in my panties, is actually a really good sign. That's a green flag. Or if you just heard cervical mucus and the word goo and you're like, nothing like that ever comes out of me, to Sophia and I, that's a red flag, and we need to be chatting about it. So that's what this
Or it's
episode.
coming out of me perpetually with no ovulation. That's another red flag. So let's break this down. I propose we do this by phase of the cycle. So let's start maybe with the beginning. Do you want to start with menstruation? Do you want to start with ovulation? Where do you think is the good like starting point to talk about this?
While you and I might think about ovulation is the most important thing, most people are going to think about this from start to finish, from bleed on. So let's talk about period. You have your period bleed.
Red
What's
flag, green
normal?
flag when it comes to your period. Okay, so I'm going to throw up some green flags here so you can have a reference for what's normal, because we could go on and on and on with like the longest list of red flags. But if we don't know what a green flag is. We don't know what a period, what like a good healthy period would be, and we're only like flagging the wrong ones. It's a long list. So let's start with a green flag. A green flag, believe it or not, when it comes time to menstruate, is to feel a dip in your energy. This is actually a good thing. This means your hormones are working properly because when you begin menstruating, your progesterone just went from the highest in your entire cycle to immediately the lowest in your entire cycle. And that happens over a course of just a couple days. You'll have a drastic drop. Well, simultaneously, your estrogen is also at its lowest point in the cycle. So you are sort of bottoming out hormonally, which is what kickstarts your cycle to refresh itself with the period. It is biologically normal and good for you to slow down, to rest more. This is where we want you sleeping more. This is where we want you just generally resting more all across the board. This is when you want to start dipping into your freezer stash of meals and maybe do a couple takeout nights. This is when we're transitioning our workouts from weights and running or whatever it is you like to do, Zumba, Pilates, to walking and some yin yoga and some gentle hiking in nature. This is where we want you slowing down. It is a good thing to be a bit more tired. I mean, not a slug who can't get up off the floor. That would be a red flag. But a green flag being a dip in energy where you feel like you have maybe three quarters to half the energy that you would have on a regular day. You just sort of feel tired. That is actually a green flag.
For me, that almost sounds like this is Caitlin's normal the first couple days of her period.
Mhm.
I'm not so much like more tired. I just need more to recharge. So I'm a natural
Mhm.
introvert and I need like alone time to recharge. And I find myself the first day or two of my period where I'm like, BJ, just take the kids. I just want to lay in bed for a little bit. And it's not that I actually want to sleep. I just don't want somebody asking me for something. I don't want, I mean, even the people I'm closest to, I don't really
Yes.
want even their company. I just need, and it's not that I don't want it all day long. I just need a little bit more just me time because the extra noise and the extra stimulation and the extra focus becomes and translates itself to more like irritability. I'm shorter with my children.
Mhm.
I'm shorter with my husband, not just in that first day or two of my bleed, but the day or two beforehand. And so a lot of people I think just think like, "Oh, this is just my PMS." Maybe your PMS is just saying, "Slow down, go recuperate, get a little bit more quiet." And I don't mean like go be alone and just scroll to death. Like go sit in nature and have a cup of tea. Go listen to
Mhm.
birds chirp. I just spent the last couple days in my garden. It was so refreshing to just
What? I
being
wanna see your
outside
garden.
and
I didn't even know
like
you had one.
well, when I say garden, I mean the area in front of my house that needed to be prettier for a retirement party. It's not like we planted tomatoes and we're eating it. It's like I spread mulch and planted pretty flowers.
Well, it
But
still sounds lovely, and I wanna see pictures of it.
yeah, it's so I guess what I'm just trying to say is like it doesn't need to feel like I'm so tired, I just need to sleep. It could just be like I need more to recharge.
Hey, Food Freedom and Fertility family. It's Sophia introducing Fertility Cloud. High treatment costs can be daunting, but here's some good news. 80% of Fertility Cloud patients have gotten pregnant for under $2,000 after just 5 months of treatment. Starting your family doesn't need to come with a huge price tag. Fertility Cloud virtual consultations mean you can talk to them from the comfort of your couch. They create personalized plans for men and women, whether it's ovarian stimulation with Clomid or Letrozole, Ovidrel trigger shots, guidance on male fertility, or even weight management support with medication. As a special for Food Freedom and Fertility listeners, get $50 off your initial medical doctor consultation. With meds delivered in just a day or two, unlimited support for your questions, and free follow ups when needed, they're here to make your path to parenthood smoother and more affordable. Ready to start?
Visit myfertilitycloud.com and enter food freedom, one word, at checkout.
Yes, that is very, very normal, as is heightened emotion. You are going to be more emotional at this time. This is a good thing. We are emotional beings. We are made for connection. And this is a good time to turn inward as your body sort of sheds its lining, essentially. I don't want to call it waste, but it is sort of like the product of incomplete conception, I guess. This is a good time to sort of shed things emotionally, to take
Kinda
a
be
look at what's
aligned
making.
with what's
Yeah,
going on in your
take a
body.
take
Mhm.
a reflective step back and look at what is getting you so emotional. Are there things that you maybe need to feel that you haven't been taking the time to feel because it's uncomfortable and slow and it's not productive to cry or to be angry or to feel frustrated, and you've just been trying to push through things in order to function, function, function all the time. It's
Mhm.
actually normal and good and a green flag to have a heightened sense of emotion. And this includes often wanting to be embraced, wanting to have sweet time with your partner, not where he's friggin' asking you for stuff and saying, like, hey, where's the peanut butter? Like that kind of stuff. It's no, but where he's just sort of hanging out with you and doing what you like to do, and you're just being with him, being with the people you love, a recharging, refreshing conversation with a loved one. This is a good time to meet for a cup of tea with a friend. This is a good time to do the kinds of things, like for Caitlin, she said she's much more of an introvert. I'm more of an extrovert. And so something that would be really recharging for me would be like a deep and loving conversation with someone I really care about. Like that fills my battery. Not like I don't want to like go to a party and like meet new people, and like sometimes that's recharging for me, but at this time in your cycle it's normal to feel emotionally want to hunger for that emotional depth and want to sort of connect on a deeper level with the people that you have in your life instead of like having all this energy to like go out and meet new friends. So this is a good time to go inward. It's a good time to gain clarity on different things in your life. I say that I want to say to gain a piece of clarity, because you're going to see things more emotionally in your menstrual phase that maybe aren't the whole truth of the matter. You're going to maybe feel like, gosh, I can't do this or that anymore. I don't want to do these things in my life. Take that into consideration. That's worth considering. But don't make your big life choice about whether or not you're going to keep working here or you're going to keep this dog
You're
that
gonna
keeps
sell a
digging in your
car
yard.
or whatever.
Sell your car,
Yeah.
whatever. I'm done trying to conceive. I can't do this again. Like, don't make a big decision in that time. All right, so those are some green flags. Do you know what else is a green flag? Heaviness, feeling a sense of like your uterus, your belly feels sort of heavy, and a general light bloating where things just feel a bit more tender and a bit more heavy. That's the physical sensation that is normal around menstruation. We're
Mhm.
going to talk about some physical sensations that aren't normal, but you're not supposed to feel like you aren't on your period. That's
Right.
really what I want to convey here. So we saw like what comes to mind so much for me is, remember that tampon commercial where they played that song "Whip It Baby, Let's Whip It Right," and it was like these like awesome dancers on a football field, and they're like in their sparkling unitards like doing this full out dance production, and then at the bottom it says Tampax was there. There
Mm.
was like all these there's a series of commercials, I wanna say in like the early 2000s, that was like women competing
Doing
in
all these
sports or like
things.
doing their big
Mhm.
meeting or whatever, and then the bottom it says Tampax was there. Like, look at her doing all these things on her period.
Mhm.
She says, "Let's just all pretend we don't even have periods. Let's I'm a man." Here, that's what this commercial should be. We're men. It's fine. We don't bleed. That was like the message coming across. Which I realized, was maybe a little emotional of me at the time because, like, look, this girl probably worked really hard to be in this dance performance and she doesn't
Mhm,
want to not go do her sport that she loves because she's on her period. Thank God there's a tampon that can help her
mhm.
go do what she wants to do. Hooray. But you're supposed to feel like you're on your period. Don't
Yeah.
feel
It
like
it's
you're
not
supposed
like
to feel ready to run a marathon.
totally. I I will say on the energy front, towards the tail end of my cycle, or I'm sorry, towards the tail end of the bleeding part of my cycle, I tend to have a lot more energy. So, like, it might
Yeah.
start on the low end or I need a little bit more to recharge, but, like, by the end, the last day or 2 of me bleeding is I have more energy. I feel like I could take on the world. I'm becoming more
Mhm.
creative. I want to go do the more, like, requiring of me type of exercise. I feel like I am woman. Watch me roar.
Amen. And that is as you're entering your fertile window or your follicular phase, as we can call it, totally normal. And you're going to start feeling that around day 3 or 4 of your period when the bleeding isn't so heavy and it's starting to taper down and you feel like you're sort of coming back to life because your estrogen begins to rise at that time. But I want to pause us here because I want to talk about before we go into the follicular phase, let's throw up some red flags of the menstrual
So,
phase.
couple that come to mind are pain. Like,
Amen.
if you are having pain that's more than like, "Oh, man, this cramp, I don't like having low back sensations during my period," or I'm doubled over in pain. Like that there's a difference between, "I can hardly tell," and, "This is so painful, I need to take 8 Advil today." Very
Mhm.
big difference. Okay.
A sense of heaviness, fullness is different than pain. And I want you to really hear that. If you're experiencing pain, something's got to change. It could be that there's an actual diagnosis, like myself, having stage 3 deep infiltrating endometriosis. And then, though I've had my endometriosis removed, I then had to have this emergency ectopic pregnancy. And now I have all this scar tissue that I'm working with that's causing me pain now. But the point of the sentence is any of you, if you're trying to conceive, whether you're in that wait 6 months, wait a year, who knows, blah, 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 you're experiencing pain, that warrants further investigation.
Mhm. Pain.
Maybe it is your lifestyle. You need to cut back on the caffeine. You need to increase the sleep. We need more fiber, more antioxidants. You need more omegas. You need less inflammatory oils and things like that. It could just be that your life is out of balance, which
Mhm.
is worth addressing. And frankly, the whole reason we're here on this podcast. Or it could be a red flag of a more insidious condition where there's an actual progressive disease like endometriosis, adenomyosis, an infection, like there's something going on that needs medical treatment. And so I'm throwing up my first big red flag for pain during your
Mhm.
period. Good one, Caitlin.
I think that the next one that comes to mind for me is where there's so little blood, you feel like I could wear a light tampon for 14 hours and not really feel it. And this is your
Light
regular.
tampons. I thought that was like a communal joke between all women. Like what
And then
who
the
uses
other
these?
end of the spectrum would be like, I'm bleeding through a super tampon and wearing like a overnight maxi pad, and I'm still leaking into my underwear and jeans within like an hour. Like if your bleeding is so heavy on one end of the spectrum or so light on the other end of the spectrum, both of those are red flags.
Amen. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Could be the heavy bleeding. Endometriosis is common cause. It can be fibroids, which is something else that's basically a non-cancerous tumor growth within the muscle tissue or
Mhm.
other layers of tissue within your uterus. It could be, as is common with PCOS sufferers, endometrial hyperplasia, which is where you went so long between cycles that your uterine lining got super, super duper thick and now there's like this huge parka of lining to shed versus a cotton sport coat
Mhm.
to shed. So that can be part of it. Polyps can be a big one. And another one that is Too often overlooked are blood clotting disorders and autoimmune issues that are causing you to bleed more than what's normal. This is something like D-dimer, von Willebrand, antiphospholipid syndrome. These are a couple issues that happen in the way that your body clots blood. It's like a genetic issue that can get turned on or off depending on, what's happening in your life. And very, very treatable. And so that's
Mhm.
some of them, like the antiphospholipid syndrome, that's more where we see like the super duper light and we maybe have like a day or two of bleeding and that's all. Whereas like von Willebrand and D-dimer, that's where we're seeing like much more heavy. I don't need you to memorize these things or to try to diagnose yourself. I want you to understand that these things exist and they are treatable. So let's get you the appropriate treatment, huh?
If you're trying to conceive and you haven't
Amen.
been conceiving and you're listening to this, you're like, I'm in pain and I'm bleeding so much, or I'm in pain and I'm not bleeding very much at all. Those are two ends of the spectrum that require more curiosity and
Mhm.
answers. And so the point of this episode is it's out of the range of what we would consider normal. You're already struggling to conceive, so we know something's going on. This is information to pay attention to and bring to your doctor. I think one thing about menstruating specifically, though, Sophia, is that doctors' assessment, like the typical allopathic OBGYN, who's like usually your first thought of when you're having a menstruation question, may not consider pain or one side of the spectrum or the other in terms of bleed being that abnormal. Okay.
Yeah, or they
So,
just have no tools in the toolbox. And so they're like, take birth control pills.
right.
And you're like, well, I'm trying to get pregnant. So how's that supposed to help me?
Exactly. And so, what I'm trying to say here is sometimes your run of the mill OBGYN is not going to be the best, most curious practitioner in helping you get to the bottom of this. And you may need to find a more fertility focused one or ask for a referral to somebody that can do some more testing or check
Hmm.
out my fertility cloud. They're awesome at stuff like this.
That is so true. That is so true. And they're available pretty much everywhere and like an
Mhm.
appointment tomorrow if you need
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Another red flag. We talked about the high emotion of your cycle. While it's a green flag to feel a little more weepy, a little less, I guess I would call it more like your filter weakens. Like something
Mhm.
that normally you would be like, okay, I'm annoyed by this, but such is life. I'm moving on. When you're on your period becomes, I'm going to say something and then I'm going to say it to you right now.
Mhm.
And so that's what I would call more normal, like your filter sort of weakening. What's not normal is having a major depressive episode,
Mhm.
feeling like you don't want to keep on living life, feeling like you want to get a divorce, you want to drop out of school, you want to make these huge, dramatic life changes because you're just so miserable. And you're noticing sort of a cyclical nature of this, not just like you're questioning what is the meaning of my life, but you're questioning how am I going to even keep on living life?
Mhm.
You're not just questioning whether or not you chose the right major. You're questioning, continuing to live in this country and do these things. You're ready to like sell all your stuff and move to Tibet or something.
Well, I feel that way
This,
quite a lot recently. It has nothing to do with menstruation, but I just wanna normalize that for anybody else that might feel that way right
oh
now.
my gosh, Caitlin's going through so much right now. You guys don't.
Uh,
It could be more of a commentary on the true amount of crap you're dealing with as well. So don't
mhm,
just blame your period on that. But
mhm,
if you're feeling extremely high emotion, and you're feeling so bad emotionally, like crippling anxiety or just a weighted wet blanket of depression that you cannot crawl out from underneath, no matter how many cups of tea you sip in nature, no matter how many fun conversations you have with your best friend, you just cannot find joy. You may be having PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is again treatable and often a sign of too low of progesterone. and potentially some other hormonal issues as well. But this is a red flag. If you are having really bad emotional problems to where you're like torching your life and harming your loved ones during these first few days of your cycle or the couple days leading up to it, that's a red flag. It's time to get help.
Okay. The other red flag I think of kind of off the cuff is time of the bleed. So, like, are you bleeding for 10 days? Are you bleeding
Mhm,
for 2 days? So, there is kind of like a generally what we would consider normal, and that can range. You could have a period for like 3.5 days, and I would still say that could be considered normal. If you have a period for 12 days, that's not normal. So it's
mm-mm,
not even just like how much you're bleeding, but how long you're bleeding. And then the other thing that I think about time, which is a red flag, is how long in between bleeds. So you
mhm,
might consider yourself blessed and lucky if you're only bleeding like every 2 or 3 months or once or twice a year. But that is a huge red flag. If you are not bleeding more regularly, we are sure you are not ovulating regularly. Okay. If you bleed once or twice a year, you may have ovulated once or twice a year. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, bleeding more often than every 24 days, I would consider being very, like, on the other end of the spectrum. I would say this is a red flag. 25 days may be like an orange flag or somewhere in
mhm.
between
That's the
where
beige flag, maybe.
the
Is that what the beige flag is?
I don't know. The
I
in
don't really
between.
know what that means. Okay, Urban Dictionary, what's the beige flag? We're gonna learn it right now.
So, while you're typing, I think that it this is where having cycle literacy and actually go back to the last couple episodes we did on back to the basics and cycle charting. Your cycle has so much data. It's going to help us answer the question if a 25-day frequency from day one of this bleed to day one of the next bleed is too short or not. But when you start getting into the low 20s, I've even had clients say, like, I feel like I bleed every 2 weeks. That's a huge red flag. You may not be
Mhm,
ovulating. You may not have enough estrogen. You may not be making enough progesterone. Like, there's a lot of things that could be going on if you're bleeding that
infection,
often.
polyps,
Fibroid
extremely
again.
short luteal phase.
Mhm. So we wanna look at that. That's a huge red flag. And
Yeah, it
so,
is.
you can get pregnant and be more emotional during your period. You can get pregnant and have heavy bleeds or even lighter bleeds. If you are not making enough progesterone, you can't stay pregnant without
Mhm,
intervention and help. If you aren't ovulating, you aren't going to get pregnant in the wild on your own. And so some of these things that we're talking about are maybe even more pronounced, like get to the doctor now. But we want to talk about this because we also want you to be healthy and well, even outside of trying to conceive. So if you're bleeding through, you know, 5 super tampons a day and you're catching it in like an overnight pad and you're still bleeding through that, like, how can you say that you're well? You can't even think about what you want to eat for lunch because you're so concerned about, am I bleeding through? And my coworker is going to be able to see that. It's
that
not
actually happened to me a couple nights ago.
it's
I
not
was
it's not just about like, let's get pregnant. Like,
yeah.
how is your mental health if that's happening to you? But you could still maybe get pregnant depending on what's causing that bleed. Okay.
Yeah, and if you're not getting so depleted of iron every single cycle, that's a
Mhm.
legitimate concern. Like I have really heavy periods due to a fibroid and endometriosis, which has been excised, but it's, can't it's a disease that there's no cure for. And so you're kind of describing me when you're talking about these really heavy periods. I have that too. And the reason we want you to seek treatment for this is because there are treatments. Like there's tranexamic acid while you're bleeding. There's progesterone during your luteal phase. There are high iron foods to be focusing on and other things you can be doing to make sure that in between periods your body is replenishing what it lost. It doesn't necessarily mean something horrible and insidious about your fertility, but it does need care today so that it doesn't become a horrible problem down the line.
Hey, friends, we're taking a break from this episode so I can share with you a little more about one of our sponsors, Fullwell. Fullwell is a reproductive health company offering superior nutritional supplements that are made without compromise to support women and men throughout their reproductive journey. I have taken Fullwell's prenatals, their fish oil, and have literally tried every product they've released, and I stand behind this recommendation with my whole heart. One of my favorite things to recommend to clients is their fertility trio. This includes their egg and sperm quality supplement, their women's prenatal, and fish oil. This helps proactively support you getting ready to conceive. This trio includes things like CoQ10, ashwagandha, and NAC. It makes me think of a life vest. You don't want to go into pregnancy without these foundational supports. And if you've been struggling while trying to conceive, this is the time to upgrade your prenatal fertility game and check out Fullwell. Use code FFF20 today to get 20% off your first order. I would say, too, some of these things could even be lending towards a thyroid diagnosis. And so it's really helpful to look at these time points, how much you're bleeding can be helpful there, too. And then the last one that kind of comes to mind for me as a red flag is if you're seeing really slow moving blood. So
Mhm.
that like brown, more oxidized, it's not filling a tampon or a pad very easily or over a
Yeah, it
normal
kinda
period of
sits on top
time.
of the pad and tampon, it doesn't absorb in because it's like a clot tissue blob.
Clotty, yeah, clotty brown discharge is not the kind of discharge that we're looking for a productive, healthy period,
A little bit of that can be normal, and
especially at the
again,
beginning
exactly, especially at the beginning,
or the
but I
end.
want
Yeah.
you to look at the total length of your luteal phase, because if you start spotting 3 days before your actual bleed, and now we're only going from ovulation to when you first start spotting, we're only having like 6 days, 7 days. That's really not long enough for a baby to implant. And so there can be some issues happening there that are worth looking into. And I just also want to say in this time, gals, I know we're saying like red flag, red flag. Please don't be afraid if you have these going on. This is don't call the ambulance, don't call 911, don't get freaked out that this means you can't have a baby. Listen to how many things I'm saying I have. I've had gotten pregnant 3 times. So, it just means waiting a year and doing nothing, or accepting this diagnosis of unexplained infertility. Oh, all your labs are fine. Well, you're actually not that fine if these things are going on.
Mhm.
And just to sort of complete, I think, the thought that Caitlin was sharing, which is really good, that like people can get pregnant with these things. So don't let it scare you so much. But if you're having this and you're not getting pregnant, let's not look at this as just, oh, it's one of those things. No, this is a part of a symptom profile that could give an explanation that's
Mhm.
treatable as to why
Mhm.
you're not getting pregnant.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay, let's move into follicular phase. So your period has come and gone. You're maybe still having a little bit of bleeding, but the bulk of your bleeding is done and your period is coming to a close. So now we're entering the follicular phase. So what are some green flags? You already mentioned one, your energy and creativity starting to spike. What else?
Yeah, your libido will go up in this period. I would say it's like maybe 75% of like full throttle libido, which will
Hmm.
happen towards the end of this when you ovulate. But like he's starting to look pretty good to you at this moment. And when he's hanging window treatments like Sophia's Louis was the other day with she's like, man, men with tools. And then I looked at the picture and I was like, really? That
I
tool?
thought he looked so cute.
But he's your husband. Like that
It's true.
it's
Come
my
on, don't
choice.
say really for him.
No, not for him. The tool he was using, like, "Oh, I'm just, like,
Oh, a
adjusting
handheld
a
Phillips
little."
screwdriver?
Isn't that what he
to
had?
screw in one curtain rod.
Yes, that's my point. That's
Listen,
not the
I
same
wasn't
as
tall
like
enough to do it, so I had to call him in because it was in a
that
bathtub. I couldn't
chainsaw,
use a
like,
ladder there.
like it's not the tool that I think of like take my clothes off now. Oh
Yeah,
man, I have a
a
really
little
good
mini
story that
handheld Phillips
because I
screwdrivers.
respect my husband,
Maybe
I'm not going to tell
not
right
the
now.
big thick hammer you were hoping to see.
Okay. The point here is that kind of steps up. You're like, hey, mister.
He starts being the things that you maybe were like, ugh, this guy. Start being like, he's kind of cute and quirky.
Mhm,
He's a little funky, but I love him.
mhm,
And yeah, you start feeling your outlook on life starts becoming more positive. You
mhm,
start thinking of creative projects you want to try. You are like,
mhm.
well, this would be a good time to plant those bulbs in the garden.
This would be a great time in the month to plan a party for, right? Like, this
Hmm.
is when you want to plan a party, but don't do it in a week or two when you might be in your luteal phase and you don't want to be around the peoples.
Hmm.
So
Or
it's
maybe
not just
have the party then,
creativity.
but plan it during this time so then you can just
Mm,
enjoy it during that
no,
time. You don't have to
no,
plan it. No,
that
Caitlin
would
says
not
no to
work
that.
for me. That
What
would,
we need to hear the tea on this retirement party you're throwing for your mother-in-law. Seems
I
like
haven't even thought about where I'll be in my cycle. But now that we're talking about it, let's think about it. It's only in like 12 days. Mm,
where will you be in your cycle?
yeah, I'm about to ovulate. Ooh, it's going to be rough. It's going to be a rough one.
Okay, but listen,
All
you
right,
brought something
PCOS
up.
gods. Could this be the cycle that it's longer?
Can you please give me a longer follicular phase? Please, God. See, and my follicular phases are like pretty short. Like
Mhm.
I ovulate on like day 12. And so I don't get to have like I'd love a few more days of that
Mm.
follicular phase vibe.
Mhm.
Be nice to have that a little longer.
So
Alas, here we are. You play the
so
hand you're dealt.
yeah, you got more energy, you're looking to get down a little bit more, and because of that, we're going to start looking downstairs at what's coming
Hmm.
out of your vagina. What's
So
coming out of
after
your
your
vagina?
period, once the blood is done, you want to see a couple days of a whole lot of nothing. That's the time where your hormones are pretty quiet. Think of it as everybody's on the starting blocks and they're going to start the race soon, but everybody's sort of congregating at the starting line for the race. Like
Mhm.
we just cleaned up from the last event, now we're setting up for the next one and no one has shot off the starter's pistol just yet. So you
The jockeys have mounted, but they are
the
not.
jockeys have mounted. Okay. I was talking to this beautiful little petite girl at my gym. She's so cute and she's so blonde. Like she doesn't even have to like shave under her arms because her hair is like white. She's just so blonde. And we were talking about like what life would be if I was a man or whatever. And she was like, I would be she's
A
so petite. She's
jockey.
like, I would be like shopping the farmer's market in my burlap shorts or whatever. And I was like, or mounting up and coming in third at Belmont. Either way,
You would be the
fabulous
reason
silk shirts will
for
be
some great
worn.
hats.
You're going to wear yeah. You'll be wearing a fabulous hat in a fine silk top. So anyway, that is neither here
Uh,
nor there. That means nothing.
it's just so
What the
funny
hell
because
were we talking about? Normal,
the
green
first
flag.
image I had of people at the, like, getting ready was, like, those, like, track athletes, and then I was like, "That's not as fun to think about." It's all these little, like, jockeys getting on the horse, getting ready to All right, guys, sorry. We're talking about no fluid. You're sitting at that starting line, you're like, "Nothing's happening." We get a break
Yeah,
from
just
fluid
not
we're
much.
collecting and a break from fluid that's, like, really moist, really, really
And
lubricative.
again, just your vagina is meant to be moist, just like your eyes or your mouth or the inside of your nose. So it's not going to be dry like you're touching the back of your hand when you're touching the inner lips of your labia or inside your vagina. We were talking about what you see on the paper when you wipe, what you find in your panties when you change or go get in the shower or go take a wee. You're just not going to be seeing maybe a little dried sort of mucus crust, like just a tiny bit. That's what you're going to see during this time. That's when your hormones are quiet. And
Mhm.
so you're not going to see a whole lot of anything. That's a green flag during this time of your cycle.
Mhm. Red flag around that, like early follicular phase would be like smelly discharge. That
Hmm.
or
Itching, burning, stinging,
mhm.
white,
Yeah.
clumpy discharge,
It should
yellowing,
be
stringy.
it should be starting to be like a little bit wet then, and then it
Hmm.
should be maybe even coming together more like everybody says egg white. After just recovering from a cold, I gotta tell you, it's so much more like clear snot. So much more. When we get to that, like,
It is.
very
Because
fertile
honestly, it is clear snot.
it
Like
is.
it is.
It's
Yeah,
mucus from a different part of your body.
it is. Plain and simple. Like
Plain and
it's
simple.
not plain and simple. Plain and simple.
Oh god. We're getting emails.
Honey. Okay.
That's why you don't have boyfriend.
Why you not like? I do for you. Okay, moving on. So as you approach ovulation and your follicular phase progresses,
Your follicular phase.
follicular phase, follicular phase.
Anyway, you should be like a cold no, it should be allergy season down there. It should be
Yeah.
light allergy season. Not
Yes,
not
we want to
yellow,
see
not like
clear.
yes, clear.
Maybe a little bit white, like, if it's been sitting in the panties for a little while, like, maybe it's been a few hours since you took your last pee and wiped, it's getting to be a little bit on the whiter side, maybe there's a little streak of white in it, but
Mhm,
we want it mostly clear and copious,
mhm.
and you should be feeling like you need to be tied to a tree so you don't hump your husband in the public street. A green flag is a high libido.
Yes.
You are an inherently sexual being designed for pleasure. And this is a time in your cycle where you should be very pleasure focused. This is where you want to plan that trip to Tuscany. This is where you are trying the new recipe. This is where you are down to pound every day and you're like ready for multiple orgasms. This is when you want to try the tantric eye gazing. Like this is when you want to whip out the new toy or whatever. This should be if you are not feeling like a horny beast during your ovulation time, that's a red flag. That is means something is not right,
Mhm,
either hormonally or physically. It could mean
mhm,
that you really have never had very pleasurable sex because there is something structurally blocking it. Like you're having
mhm,
vaginismus, you are having vulvodynia, you are having some chronic BV that you've been on 3 freaking antibiotics for and it still isn't cleared up. It could be that there is muscle tightness or muscle weakness. It could be that you have unresolved trauma from past relationships or people that were inappropriate with you at other times and you've really never been able to enjoy these parts of your body because they've been a source of such trauma and sorrow for you over the years. There can be many, many reasons.
can we add to a group of this? I would say in the Christian kind of worldview, and if you're of the same like age or similar age as Sophia and I, and grew up in like purity culture,
Mm, God,
where
modesty culture.
yeah, where it's like you are the problem for any man ever lusting, and so you need to cover up, and we need to not talk about sex, and we need to not have sex, and don't even kiss till you get married, or whatever crazy version of that you've been exposed to.
Mhm.
And so you had no idea that sex was really meant for it to be pleasurable for you. And you got into marriage and didn't know that it was okay to experiment and have fun in the bedroom with your partner. Like, I feel like there's a huge portion of people that have just come from a context, and maybe we need to have conversations around this too sometime.
Oh, we should. You know who we should have is Bethany from Girl Defined. She's so fun with this kind of stuff. Okay, I know her. I will contact her.
So, my point is, Sophia brought up if you have very low libido in this period of time where your body's telling you to have libido because you were designed to try to make a baby every single month, then maybe there is that other mental or physical piece to it. Um, but I would also say that it doesn't necessarily need to be like strict trauma or
Yeah,
bad sex to be the
exactly.
only piece of it. You could have some other kind of, what you have been taught about sex,
So
or what
true.
were you were indirectly taught about sex because this is what your exposure was.
And it's
Um,
not just those of you who grew up in a strict evangelical background. Too many of us got our sex education from watching like shows and pornography where somebody like gets kissed and thrown up on the tabletop and they're like immediately orgasming.
mhm,
And the first time someone even like touches their breast, they're like, "Ah, so sexual," and like immediately experiencing extreme levels of pleasure from the slightest touch, which
mhm,
is generally not how most women's bodies respond.
mhm,
We have a responsive body that needs to kind of
time.
get there.
Mhm,
Like, it's not going to be like an immediate orgasm because you looked at a penis. Like, it's going to be
mhm,
much more. And if you were exposed to pornography and this part of your brain was changed by seeing these highly sexualized images, and now in order to even get some sort of libido charge, you have to view some crazy stuff, or you just have a really unrealistic expectation of how real sex actually goes, that can be limiting you as well.
mhm,
So these aren't necessarily like medical problems that you need to go see a doctor for. Like, what do you go see a doctor? Like, hey, I watched a lot of porn from when I was 11 to 25, and now my arousal isn't what I want it to be. What are they going to do for you there? Nothing. You need other help than what they have to offer for that. But um, just want you to know that a green flag is high libido and a lot of sexual desire and experiencing a lot of sexual pleasure during your ovulation phase. A red flag would be a lack of libido, difficulty experiencing orgasm, pain with sex, pain with penetration, or just a general lack of pleasure during sex during that time of your cycle.
okay, I'm gonna say a super controversial thing.
Oh, I can't wait.
This may A lot of our listeners may not be like the porn consumer in their household, or were the primary um graphic, like visual porn consumer. But a
Mhm.
lot of the women that I know that are exposed to pornographic material is coming in the form of like fairy smut. It's like this category
I know just
of
what you're talking about.
books that portray sex
Mm.
in similar ways, and it's like a reading style of porn that, then you have a partner that isn't like making your toes curl before he even barely touches, I don't even know how to describe
I
it,
get what
but
you're saying.
like
He's this perfect person that doesn't exist in the book with like all of these magical sexual tricks and some enormous wiener, which
most men
it's
don't
honestly
have.
really not that great once you have to deal with one. Louis would be dead. Listen,
Uh,
it doesn't need to be huge, okay? And sometimes if it is, that can create its own issues. But I digress. You're totally right, Caitlin. And it can make really unrealistic expectations as far as like how sex should go, how it
mhm,
should begin, how you should be approached, like the
mhm,
days leading up to this grand romantic encounter. And you just
mhm,
have your husband who's a loyal, honest, guy who's wonderful to be married to, but he's not this like Casanova. He's just
Mhm.
a regular guy who loves you, who's going to say, "What do you think? You want to go for it tonight?" And you're going to be like, "Ah, as if I was expecting you to fly in, on your freaking fairy wings or whatever." I don't really know. I don't read these books, but you get
All
what
I
I'm
can
saying. So,
you're so right, and you helped me out with that. But all I can think of, this is so terrible, is this one Instagram reel of this guy at the gym. Like, I don't know what he's doing. He's like curling or something. And then there's a man, a black man in the background with literally a schlong almost to his knees. I've never seen a
Caitlin, what are we
penis.
talking about?
I've never seen a penis this big. First of all, in real life. Second of all, I didn't know they came this big. It had to have been a foot and a half long, not erected. I like something was wrong with him.
Do you guys remember that like
And he's
meme
just
that got circulated for the longest time? And it was this like big, beefy black guy with his like hanging wiener. It was like
no,
down to his knee.
no,
You
but
don't you don't remember that?
this was kind of like that, and I just had
What has this
nightmares
episode
after seeing
become?
it.
First it's your like Vietnamese accent. And now we're profiling the
We
black
are a
man.
red flag.
We are a red flag.
We
This
are the red
podcast
flag.
is a red flag.
Okay, so we're gonna divert a little further to when I was a young single lady, and one of my best friends lived a couple blocks off of Golden Gate Park in California, in San Francisco. And I was offered by a friend, because he couldn't do the race, was offered a, a racing bib to run the Beta Breakers, which you start on one side of San Francisco and then you run to the other side, and it ends kind of, the other side of San Francisco ends where the Golden Gate Park meets the ocean. And I messaged my friend who lived a couple blocks off the park and was like, "Hey, I think I'm going to come run this half marathon." And she's like, "Great, come on up." She's about my parents' age. This is also the lady that I went and took care of for her hip replacement recently. So you've heard about her. Anyway, she's so fun. She's such a foodie. And she's like, "Hey, we're having dinner club the night before," which I had been to. This is like what movies are made of. It's like these 4 couples that get together every month and they do this like extraordinary cooking. And the long and the short of the story is that I went to cooking club with her. And at cooking club, there's 4 courses plus a living room course, like an appetizer, salad, main dish, and dessert. And every course has its paired alcoholic beverage, and there's
Mhm.
cocktails with the living room food. And so by the end of the night, and it's like a 6-hour event, so drunk, so drunk. I think I woke up drunk.
Oh
So
God.
I did not run Beta Breakers, but we walked to the park to watch it because it's also kind of just like this parade. What I didn't know prior to was that most people run this race naked. Totally naked. All
Caitlin,
these
is this another schlong story
It
you're about
is,
to
it's totally. I saw so many running
Caitlin is about
penises.
to ovulate, everyone. She is so focused on the dong.
I saw so many flinging, dong schlong, penis going ping pong that I never want to see. Like these
A
old
dong
men,
schlong penis going
these
ping pong.
like most of these men actually were naked except for their running shoes, but then would have like the most extraordinary, because you're in San Francisco, hats on. It's just, I never wanted to see another
Just
penis again
wanging
after
out.
that.
All right. Okay, you know what? Let's move on to the luteal phase and
Okay.
get Caitlin out
Wah,
of this,
wah.
out
Okay.
of the gutter,
Green flags
out
in
of
the
the
luteal
smutter.
phase.
Okay, so after ovulation comes the luteal phase. Okay, and this is sort of the female version of like the post nut clarity. Like guys will have like after they orgasm, there'll be like, whoa, now
That's
that the
cool.
cum's out
Let's
of me,
talk about
I
all
can
this.
think more clearly. That is the luteal phase. This is a good time in life to sort of evaluate what's going on with people, with things, whether or not stuff's a good fit.
We are going to take a break from this episode and chat a little bit about one of our sponsors. Truth be told, when we were contacted by Fond to see if they could sponsor our Food Freedom Fertility podcast, it kind of was like one of those dream come true sponsorships. Let me explain why. There are very few foundational foods that cover broad nutrient needs for fertility, gut health, and baby's brain development like Fond is. And not only do they create these foundational foods, they kind of exceed in every category that I can think of what we want to put into our bodies. They're the only verified regenerative through land to market bone broth, tallow, and lard on the market. Unparalleled animal sourcing, all pasture raised or 100% grass fed and finished cattle. All the herbs and vegetables that are in the blends and the seasonings of these broths and lard are exclusively organic. Nothing is packaged in plastic. The entire packaging process is plastic free from kitchen to their shipping materials. When I think about this regenerative fat line that they've just introduced to the market, I use it in so many different ways. I've used their pork lard that's flavored with cinnamon and vanilla when I've been sauteing apples to put in my children's oatmeal. I've used their regenerative beef tallow that's flavored with chili and garlic as I've sauteed meat that's going to go into a slow cooked pho style dish. And then I've used their broth within that dish itself. I love the flavor combinations. I love that I can trust that these foods that I'm putting in my body are so clean but truly delicious. The infused flavors are ready to sip, and all the fun flavors can be used to take any dish from good to gourmet. I've been using these for the last 4 or 5 months every single day and have seen a huge difference in my own health. And I know this is our fertility podcast, but we started taking on Fond as a sponsor at the same exact time that my dad got diagnosed with esophageal cancer. And I had so much peace in these moments where he could hardly eat anything, that he was sipping on a bone broth that had so much gelatin and collagen and amino acids that I knew we were reducing inflammation in his body and giving him just these beautiful, naturally occurring electrolytes and protein that was so easy to get down. This is one of my most favorite products I've ever used in my kitchen. And I am so proud that we get to partner with Fond. Fond has generously given us a coupon code for their website where you can receive 10% off. So that's FFF10. Or if you click on the link in our show notes, it actually brings you to a landing page where the discount is baked right in, and some of Sophia's and my favorite products are hanging out on that page for you to peruse. Please give this brand a try. Please support them. If you haven't listened to our episode, you are just gonna scream at how incredible this brand is and what they've come through, supporting a woman founded business that has your health and our planet's best interest at heart. It's something that I can't be more proud that we get to partner with, and they sponsor you getting this free fertility information straight to your phone every single week. Now back to our episode.
But this is where I would say you're more like your true self is in your luteal phase. This is where you're going to be the most level headed. But as time progresses towards your period, you'll start to get a little more crabby as progesterone begins to drop. But during your luteal phase, this is where we're going to see drier, sort of lotiony, creamy type cervical mucus. We do not want to be seeing blood, nor do we want to be seeing blood at ovulation, ladies. That is a sign likely that there's endometriosis on your ovary. Okay. I'm not talking about just one time, because there sometimes ovulation can cause a slight little rupture in a blood vessel, and we'll see just a teeny bit, like we're talking a streak of blood when you wipe, a little speck in your panties kind of deal.
Mhm.
That can be fine, and you just don't wanna be seeing it, like, every cycle. If you see that a couple times a year, that just basically means the follicle that ruptured had a blood vessel really near it or running across it. If you're seeing blood frequently at ovulation, this can mean you are having maybe one of those bleeding disorders we talked about, or potentially endometriosis
Mhm.
or polyps, all things that need treatment. In your luteal phase, green flag is a stickier, stringier mucus that's now edging towards sort of lotiony, like just truly looks like lotion, like if you were to put some hand lotion on, which then edges towards more the crumbly and then is pretty dry right before your period.
Yeah, and
That's
your
what we want to
energy
see.
levels should kinda match that. As you are entering your luteal phase, the day or 2 after ovulation, you might be feeling okay, but then you're gonna start going, "Ugh, I just feel a little bit more tired," you're less creative, hanging out at home sounds a little bit nicer.
Mhm.
Progesterone is your sleepy hormone. It's the one that makes you wanna rest and recover, and
Mhm.
it also increases your resting metabolic rate. And so, if you're feeling a little bit more hungry, that is normal and good. It's abnormal if you feel like you could eat, 4 dinners. Having a little
Sugar cravings
extra,
out the wazoo.
having
Or okay.
wanting a little bit, like having an afternoon chocolate or an extra cup of tea and a little bit of a snack mid-afternoon that you don't typically crave. That would be a normal level of I'm just a little extra hungry.
Mhm.
Feeling like I need to go to Jack in the Box and get fried macaroni and cheese because I heard it on a radio clip. Like that I wouldn't call that normal. That's just like,
No, yeah.
yeah.
Something that you going for something that you know isn't gonna be in alignment with your digestive goals, with your fertility goals, with your health goals, but you just can't help yourself. Like, that's different than like, "You know what? Yeah, let's go get some frozen yogurt. This is good."
Mhm.
Um, so another thing I want to point out is progesterone hypersensitivity. This is very real. And it is something that warrants treatment and further investigation. So if you are habitually breaking out in hives, if you are having what seems like another yeast infection because you're so itchy down below during the luteal phase consistently, this can be progesterone hypersensitivity. It unfortunately is generally a sign that there are other irritants, allergens, things like that happening in your life. And the progesterone is just the match that lit the dynamite. And now you're having like
Mhm.
hives and stuff. This can also be like your dry eyes or allergy symptoms are much worse. Like these things are not normal and warrant more investigation. So I would say that's a red flag in your luteal phase. Uh, did we already say spotting bleeding? That's a red flag in your
Mhm.
luteal phase. And again, we're going to go back to time. Your luteal phase should be at least 10 solid days, preferably about 12, with peak being around 14. And anything less than 10, you need to seek help. We need to make sure that your baby has long enough to implant and that you're making adequate progesterone to carry a pregnancy. And these things are very treatable. Often, nutrition and lifestyle can help because if you're just trying to power through and you're going off of 5 hours of sleep and four matcha lattes and two martinis and another deadline beating you across your back, this is not sustainable or healthy, and your cycle is going to show it. So, if you're
Mhm.
not experiencing these things we talked about, it could be your lifestyle
Mhm.
and your diet, or it could be something else that needs more medical help. So, to button up this episode, to end out the luteal phase, because at the end of the luteal phase comes your period and we've come full circle. Any other green flags or red flags you want to throw up,
Um,
throw out?
I would just say in the 2-week wait in this luteal phase, you really need to be careful with yourself.
Mhm.
Tend to your stress levels, take care of yourself, rest. Don't spend every morning staring at a stick that says you're not pregnant. Save yourself that and wait till day 12 of your luteal phase, or ideally till your period is actually missed, to do that type of testing. If you can't help it, I would say don't start testing any earlier than day 11. Just don't torture yourself that way. Save yourself that. And it's normal to try to explain things, but like every little, oh, my nipple feels sensitive. Oh, I'm extra emotional. Oh, I feel a little nauseous. Like don't don't make every moment your
Don't
body
make it
says
mean so much.
anything mean so much.
Mhm.
Exactly. But I would say if you are feeling nauseous in this 2-week wait, that is also a red flag. Like most people do not experience pregnancy induced nausea in the 2-week wait. I'm sorry, your hormones aren't making enough hormones for that to be a real issue for most
No, a
people.
baby wouldn't even really implant till around day 8 or 9 after you ovulate anyway. So it really wouldn't be that you are experiencing, it's just really not physiologically possible for you to be experiencing a pregnancy symptom before that. I'm not saying the Lord can't be speaking to you or you're not having some other anomaly, but let's not attribute it to the pregnancy, and let's be more apt to attribute it to maybe that gordita crunch I ate isn't sitting so well, or maybe I
Mhm.
need a little extra sleep because this headache that I feel coming on
Mhm. Or I
is
drank too
hay
much
fever and
caffeine
not
or
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And yes, be gentle with yourself, plan for rest.
Think
And
about
your
schlongs
digestion
and
may
tongs.
need, what was that, Caitlin?
Think
I didn't
about
hear you.
think about schlongs. Yeah, I said nothing
Think about
important.
schlong. Caitlin is hurting for it today, okay? I hope I hope BJ's ready
Uh,
for what's about to come at him
Go
tonight.
pick up a screwdriver, BJ.
Oh yeah, something's getting screwed.
Okay. Digestion's important. Whatever you were about to
Yeah,
say.
I
Let's
was just about to say that progesterone can relax your muscles. And so this is a good time in your cycle to focus on fiber and minerals because you may need extra help getting things moving.
get in the poo mood.
And also chilling out on like the extra spicy food, carbonated beverages, super sweet desserts because it's normal for your stomach to be the acid to come up a little more easily because the muscle that keeps your stomach closed is going to be a little less taut during this time of
Mhm.
your cycle. So if you're prone to heartburn, it's time to make some digestive changes as well. But I just want to throw up that that's sort of a beige flag. I wouldn't say that that's means something's wrong,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I would say that's a red flag, actually. If you're having consistent heartburn or constipation, you need to make some
That would
nutrition
be a
changes.
perfect reason to hire Sophia or myself to help you.
Absolutely. But
All
we're
right.
gonna button this up because Caitlin's got a roll. So let's throw in our yeah girls and then we'll tie a bow on this episode. Hey, it's me again, Sophia Pavia, registered dietitian nutritionist specializing in women's health, fertility, and optimal progesterone production. And I'm interrupting an episode of my own podcast to tell you about my online course called Ovulation Unlocked. So, if you've been listening to our podcast episodes, you've probably heard a lot of things about basal body temperature, cervical mucus, cervical position, and tracking your fertility. Well, I have designed a 90-minute self paced online course, which I titled Ovulation Unlocked, that puts all of that together and teaches you how to be the expert on your own fertility from home. This course is designed to put you in the driver's seat of your own fertility, not only so you can know what's going on with your body on any given day, but so that if you need medical help, you can show up to the appointment informed and ready to communicate. Too frequently, us women show up to our doctor's appointments and just say something like, I want to have a baby. And the doctor looks at you and says, good for you. Stop using birth control, start taking a prenatal, come back in a year if you're not pregnant. And that's all we get. However, Ovulation Unlocked puts you in the driver's seat, puts you in control of your fertility to where if you need help, you can show up to that appointment informed and ready to communicate your needs. So if you want to become the expert on your own body and your own fertility, head on over to my Instagram bio and tap the Ovulation Unlocked link today.
My yeah girl is that I finally did landscaping in the front of my house and my neighbors will like me, maybe.
I want to see some
I'll
pics.
take some pics. I
I
should have
have
done like a
0
before and
yard,
after.
guys.
Oh,
Nothing. I have
well.
nothing to work with at all. I don't live in an apartment, but I may as well because we have like a hardscaped, like tile side yard,
Mhm.
and our front door opens almost onto the sidewalk. Like
Yeah.
there's just nothing there. And the
It's
HOA
fun.
controls the little 3 feet of space between our door and the sidewalk.
It's
So we
fun.
can't
It's
even plant
work.
anything there.
It's expensive, but it's fun.
Someday I'll have a garden. Well, yeah, girl, to your little garden and planting beautiful flowers.
What's your yeah, girl?
I think my yeah, girl is going to be that my hubby turns 40 on Sunday.
Are you going to tell
Oh,
people
and
what
I
you
can
did?
tell you guys, what we're doing because
Do
he
it
won't
fast
listen to
because
this
we
if
got to
I.
go.
Okay. I got him to, he's a huge Star Wars fan, huge nerdy Star Wars fan. And I got him to tickets. He doesn't know, but we're going to go to the show together. Babysitter's coming on Sunday. And I'm taking him to this burlesque comedy Star Wars dance performance called The Empire Strips Back. And it's supposed to be hilarious and very like athletic and cool, like Cirque du Soleil, but Star Wars themed. So that's what we're gonna go do for his 40th birthday. And I'm making a lamb ossobuco with saffron risotto and a tiramisu. So it'll be so that's it. That's what we're doing for his birthday. That and nothing
So
else. Actually,
fun.
I'm having some friends over to play Dungeons and Dragons also because he's
D&D.
huge nerd.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of Food, Freedom, and Fertility. We hope you like the green and the red flags. If you
And I hope you laughed with us because this was
did,
so much laughing. I loved it.
like us, share this with somebody you know who's struggling. Subscribe, follow, all
Rate,
the things.
review,
Rate,
leave
review.
us a comment.
And I started adding from my one solo episode last week is if you really love us and you need support in the ways that our sponsors provide support, throw them some love and book your fertility cloud appointment or buy your prenatals from Fullwell or
Drink some damn
drink some
fond
damn
broth.
fond broth because all those things could be very supportive for you. And
Use some damn fond lard.
if you use the link that we provide in the show notes, it helps them know that you learned about them from us and helps people like them continue to pay for the expenses that the show incurs to provide you free nutrition information. And we love you. Bye-bye.